meeting is now being recorded. So I'd like to introduce Paulina Sporek, who's a student midwife in the UK, who's doing a presentation about innovative ways of facilitating and supporting student midwives in their clinical practice. So over to you, Paulina. Looking forward to your talk. Thank you. Paulina, I can't hear you just yet.
Can you hear me now?
Can.
Hello?
Lovely. Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Beginning then. Welcome everybody. This is my second time when actually presenting for the virtual conference on the International Day of Midwives. Completely different topic. I'm a third year student midwife at St. George's Hospital in London, and it has been a special day for me so far as I have been offered my first job today. So yeah, it's been very good day so far. So today I would like to discuss student midwife experience on the clinical placement, and also how we can address issues and how we can support midwives of tomorrow by addressing both student midwives and our mentors. So the contemporary student midwife in 2016, the experience of student midwives, they continue to appear in the literature, including their perception of the mentoring, and I'm referring here mainly to work by Hughes and Fraser from 2011. So the adaptation to unexpected birth culture and of course ongoing challenge of juggling life and student midwife with family responsibilities. It's probably on the top of the list. It's important to notice as well that since 2004 in the UK there have been many policy changes both in health service and higher education institutions, which have impacted on maternity services and provision of midwifery education. And in fact, student midwives reportedly face a number of challenges due to economic and social challenges. And all these changes have impacted upon student midwife experiences of education and also the need of their specific individual needs during the clinical placement be to address. Additionally, recent changes in the NHS bursary scheme raise more dilemmas. And it's important to notice that widening participation from low wage earners, which states for 70%, is well represented in midwifery, as the majority of the entrants are dependent on the NHS bursary, and still the 73% expect to accrue debt after finishing their degree. This is striking contrast to the medical students, where only 5% are recruited from low socioeconomic groups. So the midwifery students are also older than traditional students and are more likely to have dependents. So as you can see, all the challenges with having family, the financial struggle, the recent changes with NHS bursary, the politics, and also the future and having job in the end of the training, it's a big challenge before we even start our training. So equally important, mentor, and I actually had a look in Greek mythology, and mentor was the wise and faithful advisor to Odysseus. And today the mentor is friend, role model, and able advisor, and the person who supports in many different ways. Then the Nursing and Midwifery Council defines mentor as a register who has complete all stage 2 outcomes and also completed an NMC approved mentorship perception program. So the main outcomes that is outlined by NMC covers 8 domains, and these are the establishing effective working relationship with your students, facilitation of learning, assessment and accountability, evaluation of learning, creating an environment for learning, context of practice, evidence-based practice, and leadership. So as we can see, the mentors are therefore central to the development of student competence in practice, especially in relation to their influence on student confidence and self-esteem when they are qualified. So research in other areas has shown that a supportive student-midwife relationship enhance the quality of clinical placement and the student's learning. And in fact, the piece of research I was able to find by March 2008 argues that the value of good mentor is immeasurable. And when measuring confidence in newly qualifying midwives, it highlighted the crucial role of mentorship in developing midwives, as their experience of mentorship as a student impacts on their confidence as a practitioner. So the characteristic of the mentor has been highlighted in her research into the characteristic that students believe that were important to them, and some of them for the mentor to be the model that student can look up to and respect and admire. And a visionary who gives a picture what could be done, is enthusiastic about opportunities and possibilities and interests of the student. An energizer who is enthusiastic and dynamic and kindles the student interest, and an investor who really takes time to address student needs, see her potential and capabilities, and also is able to let go and delegate responsibility when the time is right. Is supporting and listen. It's warm, caring, and encouraging. It's a teacher, coach who guides on problem solving and setting priorities. It's a good feedback giver on the regular basis, an eye opener who motivates interest in new development and research, a door opener who provides opportunities for trying out new ideas, an idea bouncer, a problem solver, an educator counselor, and the challenger who questions opinions and beliefs, forces the students to examine choices critically while empowering the students towards fulfillment and her potential. And the more recent research by the Royal College of Midwives, when they conducted the student survey in 2011, the students say that the good mentor is approachable, confident, it's advocating for women, and is an evidence-based, reflective practitioner. So as well as we consider how the mentor should be, it's also important to consider that our mentors are juggling responsibilities as well and are facing many challenges on their journey. They have their families, and they are also responsible for patients, for women in their care, and they are accountable to their colleagues, their employer, the trust policies and guidance, to their students, to the profession itself, and an MC guidance, code of conduct, midwife rules and standards, to the university. But in the end, they are a human being, as we are all. So given the complexity of the midwifery education, a team approach is essential in ensuring the effectiveness of these programs, and ultimately it directly translates to the quality of care is provided to women and babies in their families. Because let's don't forget that they are the direct observers of our behavior and interaction, both between the mentor and the student midwife. So the B word, bullying in midwifery, is a complex workplace phenomenon that requires careful examination and explanation. And in their study, in their student midwife survey 2011, Royal College of Midwives highlighted a low point of student experience, and I'm just going to quote some of them. So in terms of the clinical experience, and low points and concerns and obstacles, student midwives say poor quality of care, lack of evidence-based practice, being left alone, lack of time to acquire skills and confidence, rude mentors, negativity amongst some staff regarding the profession, lack of team spirit, judgmental, frustration not being able to do more for women, politics behind the scenes, no objectivity and no interest in students and don't want to have students at all. That should be a globe picture. So why is everyone's business? Bullying has detrimental and long-lasting effects, both of midwives, on student midwives, the profession of midwifery, and of course of the quality of care we providing every day to women, babies, and families in our care. Bullying in midwifery is a global phenomenon and has been identified as a key aspect for future midwifery research in many countries. For example, the work from Turkey demonstrated that midwifery and nursing students suffered from staff being humiliating them and making comments about their higher education that were not appropriate. And even qualified midwives in the UK have experienced poor working relationships with conflict identified between junior and senior midwives and some evidence of workplace harassment. Additionally, weekly work which shows that students were intimidated or experienced hostile behavior from senior members of staff. Students from the UK and other countries also concur the same challenges. Therefore, it's highly important that the leaders in the midwifery, not only in the UK but around the world, should take proactive measures to highlight the incidents and decrease the occurrence of bullying behaviors among staff. Being unkind is not acceptable. All qualified midwives should examine their own behavior and endeavor to relate in a more manner with students who we are, after all, the future hope of the midwifery profession. There needs to be a proactive approach to bullying, including a move towards a change in culture that actively discourages bullying at all levels with the profession. A first step may be achieved through increased awareness of what constitutes bullying and acknowledgement by the profession that is unacceptable. And such a behavior, being unkind, it's not acceptable in the 21st century midwifery. So why it's important? So creating a hierarchical culture with midwives who are unable to cope with the culture and environment in midwifery. And soon enough, that observed culture, that people are unkind to each other, becomes a normality. And we are faced with creating culture of midwives being unkind, not working, multidisciplinary, and therefore that can impact the care we provide to women. But perhaps if we invest time and we become a kind health professionals, we create happy midwives of tomorrow, midwives who are passionate, midwives who survive through the challenges, through exhaustion, because they love the work and they love to come back on the shift every single day. They feel well supported and they feel appreciated. Midwives who are there, who are true role models, midwives of tomorrow. So what we can do, what mentors can do, first of all, hear your students, smile, listen, communicate, clarify, and commit. Find resources. Stay up to date with the recent evidence, look for new resources to enhance your learning and also that will benefit your student. There is really a lot out there that you can utilize in our practice. And also connect with other people, connect with other mentors and see what they are using. Teamwork. Good relation between senior and newly qualified staff remains a crucial element. And I was lucky enough to witness some exceptional practice between senior staff and the newly qualified midwives. So to summarize the role of the mentor, sharing and explaining and pointing out, right from the beginning, giving a student chance to improve their practice in kind manner, give them feedback on the performance, on the daily basics, acknowledge what they did right, and try to improve whatever they need to be improved. Challenge them and question in polite manner, and allow to experiment. Learn to let go and give them responsibility when they are ready. And if they feel that they can ask you questions, the chances are they'll always come back to you. For the student midwife itself, have an ideas and don't be afraid of ideas. No ideas are too stupid. And in the recent development of the midwifery practice and all the advances, I'm very proud to be in the UK and being a part of an evidence-based practice with woman-centered care and individual needs. Once you have your idea, go for it and create a project. Share with others using social networks in an appropriate way. And be recognized. So not only recognize other hard work, but also recognize your hard work. So as soon as you start midwifery training, remember that it took a lot of hard work just to get into midwifery, and in many places there is one place for 10 candidates. So you are good enough to create something special, so aim high, expect the best. And in the end, both for mentors and the student midwives, what is stopping you? That's right, it's nothing. Thank you very much. It was a rather short presentation. I think I rushed through it.
Thanks, Paulina. That was great. It leaves loads of time for lots of questions. It sounds as though lots of people have experienced that sort of bullying as well as student midwives.
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone have any particular questions that they want to ask? Just see if anyone types any. I thought it was really nice that you were talking about the things that students can do as well as the midwives to improve the relationship, you know, make the most of their studentship as well as relying on the mentors for good support. It's a two-way relationship, isn't it? Oh, Susanna, have you got a question?
I've been encouraged to use the microphone more often for questions and encourage other people to, Holly. This is Cecilia Jevitt, and just last night, before VIDM started, I was working on the summer schedule for our students, and I could not get them continuity in preceptors. So over the summer semester, they will have at least 4 preceptors in the outpatient and inpatient areas combined. I'm wondering how common that is in the other programs. I know we have some other educators out there.
I know from my experience that I've had about a different mentor every couple of days throughout most of my course. So if I had a continuity like that, or a continuous midwife mentor throughout, that would have been absolutely amazing. But there's a balance, I think, between having taking the best from different people and learning from one person as well. Some people have raised their hands. I'll see if I can just pass them the mic.
Susanna has raised her hand.
Susanna, I've just given you the microphone if you want to enable your audio and ask a question or make a comment.
So Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, this is Susanna. So, this presentation actually made me remember when I was trained in Peru, in South America. And it is so true that a student midwife depends also on the context of social reality. As for example, as a student midwife, I was expected to be at the hospital sometimes 36 hours in a row. And when you're talking, for example, in South American countries or low-income countries, it is so, you go through a lot of struggle because pretty much you cannot work, right? And when you go into the hospital and you need money to pay for your transportation to go to the hospital every day, and since you are at the hospital for long hours and you don't have much money to even pay for your own meals. So, however, I think that I was very fortunate of having very good midwives at the hospital that were supported that way. They knew, for example, that we were going through all those struggles, and they talked to the hospital to allow the students, not only the midwife students, but also the medical students, to get free meals at the hospital. So, however, we were talking about how the model of education was in other countries. So, for example, when we were sent for our final year at the hospital, we were usually in contact with a teacher who was from our university. So there was a previous experience with that midwife through the courses in the first years of midwifery, and then you touch base with her when you were in your final year. So I thought that was very helpful because you knew that person already, and then you finish building a relationship with that person, not only as a teacher, but also as a future colleague and a person. So for example, nowadays in Peru, all healthcare providers, when they graduate, they have to volunteer a year um, for the government in rural areas. And it's very interesting though that medical students, they do get paid to go to the rural areas. Midwife students, they do get paid only if they go to the most in hospice areas. That means that far away or when there is no transportation, but their remuneration is very low in comparison as other students or first year graduated medical students. So I think it is a lot to think about how students are struggling to be in midwifery, not only in developed countries, but also how are they doing in other low-income countries. Thank you.
Thanks, Susanna. That was interesting insight. Jane has her hand raised as well. I'm just going to pass the microphone over to Jane too. Jane, if you want to enable your microphone, we should be able to hear you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Jane Houston, I'm the Clinical Director of Frontier Nursing University in the US, which is the largest midwifery educator in the United States. And we concur with Dr. Jevitt's comments about the difficulties of having multiple mentors/preceptors. Just an anecdote, yesterday we had a student put in a request for her clinical site with 21 preceptors. So I think it's very hard to evaluate students over, say, a 6 or 8 week period if you only see them for 2 days. So I think we really need to look at a way of comprehensive evaluation with fewer mentors/preceptors to make a better continuity. And somebody said it's like midwifing your clients. You have to midwife your students as well. So trying to make a clinical plan that is best for the students. But it is very difficult with, you know, practices and clinical sites being what they are. You sometimes have to take the difficult parts with the easy parts, but trying to, as much as possible, having comprehensive plans for your students. So thank you.
Thanks, James. Nice to hear insights from different countries as well. Paulina, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I've got just a bit of issue. I was just logged out, so I was not sure if my microphone was working at all. Yeah, it's very interesting to hear the perspective from different countries. Like, I think here in the UK, we're very fortunate that we have to work with our sign of mentors for 40% of our placement. And recently, this year, my university actually introduced a new path where there is a space you can record and feedback from other mentors and other midwives that you're working with. So it's more like multidisciplinary approach to assess you and kind of trusting other midwives or their assessment. So you're collecting your feedback, you're being proactive in your approach as a student midwife to obtain this feedback from the person you're working with, getting them to write it down. So then when it comes to your final formative or summative assessment, then your sign of mentor actually can see what you have done. And I think, especially in the cases when you have like 21 different mentors that you're working with, you have to be very proactive as a student midwife to get this feedback from other people and write exactly what you did on the day, what was the feedback, what can be improved. So you're kind of starting this reflective practice right from the beginning, and then it becomes a habit. And I think it really benefits you later on when you start your your newly qualified role. But also, I do think even when you have lots of different mentors, the attitude of the mentor really matters. Because even if you have lots of them, but all of them are extremely kind and supportive, you will feel extremely well motivated to go back on the shift rather than being, lacking confidence and feeling, oh, I really don't want to go back tomorrow, which I personally sometimes experience. And having that really good role model really make a difference, and I feel more confident in what I'm doing when my mentor is supportive. Yeah.
Paulina, Gemma asked a question in the chat. She said, do you think there's a surefire formula that you could suggest that would help student midwives achieve a good report and have some resilience with their mentor when they haven't met them for very long, haven't known them for very long? It's a difficult one, isn't it? How to connect with people really quickly.
Yes, well, what I would say, obviously our 6 C's of care, and being compassionate and having good communication and have courage and commitment, it's very important. But what I would say, if you're quite clear from the beginning about what's your objective and when you come into placement, what's my objective today and what I would like to do. So you're actually showing in the initiative. And then, I really encourage every student to get feedback on a daily basis, just right in the end of shift, or even anytime you can find a chance, there is 5 minutes break, or you're on a lunch break, or right in the end, just ask, you say, how do you think I did today? What was my strongest? What was my lowest? How do you think I can improve? And I think most of the mentors, they really appreciate that you ask. And they are really able to tell you, oh, you really did well in this aspect, but I think maybe perhaps you can improve in that. And personally, when I started this approach in my beginning of it really paid off, because I was doing a daily reflection after shift, and I was asking my mentors what I should improve and what I did well. And then when it comes to your summative assessment and everything is written down in each section of your competences, it's very easy for you to explain why you think you achieved that particular competences.
Yeah, that's really true. And it must be difficult for mentors as well, I think, when they have when they work with different students on a regular basis, and you know a new student comes to you, you've no idea what stage they're at and or what they're capable of or what they want to achieve. And I guess when you're really proactive as a student, that's really refreshing for them to because they'll know how they can help you best, and they'll feel really they have sort of very concrete ways of being able to help you rather than just you turning up and expecting to be taught things.
Yeah, of course. Like as I said in the presentation, we have to address both the student midwife and the mentor, and we're both facing the challenges, different challenging. Some of them are the same, but you have to be acknowledged that we are only humans in the end of the day, and I don't think there is any space of reason to not being unkind. But if we take a proactive approach to our learning and we reflect on daily basis, I think it makes both, it's easier for mentor and it's easier for student in the end. And sometimes it's important, like it's difficult to ask this question of how do I did, but you can kind of, you can ask in different ways. It doesn't have to be direct question if you don't feel that confident with the particular mentor.
Yeah, and as Linda said in the chat box, often the problems come from when mentors aren't feeling very confident about their own role because every midwife has to be a mentor, don't they? Later on, there are so many students, so there's not very much opportunity to actually work without a student sometimes. Or I think in London we find that there aren't most of the time a midwife has a student assigned to her, so it's very different to a teaching job where you choose to become a teacher. You might choose to become a midwife, but you haven't necessarily chosen to become a teacher. Or you might not think that it's your strongest point.
Yeah, of course. And I think we are forgetting about the very important aspect that we tend to say, oh, good mentor can empower the student midwife, but actually a good student midwife with good aspiration and passion can really empower a midwife as well.
And it's that thing of when you're teaching someone, it really reminds you everything that you know and makes you feel really confident about what you know and helps your learning as well, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. So as I said, it's a both way process really.
Does anybody have any comments or questions that they want to say on the microphone, or any other questions in the chat box at the moment? Jane, do you think you could tell us a bit more about the program that you developed? Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually approved by the American College of Nurse Midwives for all educators. So I could find out if I could share it with the folks here. But we do know that, as I said, teaching is a gift, and sometimes, we all might be the best midwife in the whole world, or so we think, but we may not be the most patient or effective teachers in the world. So it's all about learning styles and about dealing with conflict and about teaching students how to present clients properly and how to, it's about professional behaviour and things like this. It's not really so much, because we all know, I hope we all know our midwifery and obstetrics, but it's more about caring for the students as unique individuals and learning to teach effectively. It's about communication styles and really about learning styles as well. Are they visual? Do they learn differently from you? Because we do have a lot of challenges with students with needs that we might not recognize, like different communication styles and ways of learning. So it's 6 modules that our preceptors can work through, and then they get continuing education units for that. So we like all of our preceptors/mentors to undertake that program before they become preceptors for our university. So I'll see if I could share that. If there's somewhere on the website I could share that, I'll see if I can get permission if you're interested.
Sounds great, thank you. Al and Linda are having a serious conversation here about the importance of the cycle of midwives and students. It's very true. Anybody else have any questions? Or Paulina, is there anything else you'd like to add at the moment?
Well, then if I can add, I would really like to say massive thank you to all my mentors and all my teachers, St. George's University in London, because I had the most amazing experience, and having secure job in St. George's, it really makes me feel happy, and I think it's a very important topic, and I observe some really good practice and good relationship, and I can see how this make a massive difference, and how you feel and how motivated you are, and then how passionate you are when you start your own practice, and how you can be with your own students. So I think, as I said, it's cultural, so it's very important that you really pay attention to create a good culture and good environment when we can all work and be happy as professionals and create this multidisciplinary teams, because in the end it's all about the quality of care we provide to women, babies and their families, and also it's how compassionate that care is. And if they observe that the relationship between us is good, then they must feel more confident and secure, which is, I think, it's really, the fundamentals of the profession.
Yeah. And I'm at the same stage as you, Paulina. I'm finishing this year, and it's really interesting when you start thinking suddenly that in a few months' time you'll be having students working with you, and suddenly you'll be in that position, and trying to think about what kind of mentor you're going to be and how you're going to find it, and not trying to remember all the best things about being a student so that you can act in the right way later on.
Yes, exactly. And I might say,
makes such a big difference, doesn't it, to have
it
that?
does, yeah, it does. And I witnessed some really good new mentors that have been qualified not that long time ago. So I do think, the culture is changing, and the new qualified midwives, they really, good mentors.
Catherine Salam asked earlier what motivates preceptors to take on a student. I think I know that in my hospital they don't usually have a choice. They just everyone's assigned a student because there are so many students, and usually as many students as there are midwives in each area at the beginning of a shift. But I wonder if elsewhere where there are fewer students, I wonder what the motivations are there for them. Maybe people who just enjoy teaching.
Yeah, I do think it's seen more as a part of the role as well, straight from the beginning when you start your training. And also, if you come across a very good mentors, then it inspires you that this is how you want to be when you qualify, not only as a midwife, as a mentor, and in general, just human being interacting with other people.
And Ruth was saying that she's going to start studying midwifery in September. And do you have any advice on how to engage well with mentors or advice in general? I know you covered this a bit earlier on about when someone was asking about how to build a good rapport very quickly.
Yes, yeah. So to add to everything that I said before, just really as well being honest and acknowledge your limitation and weaknesses. Like after year 2, I had maternity leave for 1 year, and I also changed universities. So I transferred from Manchester to London. So as you can imagine, it was massive change for me, and I was joining new cohort and new hospital and new teachers and new mentors, and that was 2 last months of my second year, and then I was starting my third year in September, and having a 1 year off, it was scary itself, and going back, But I was very honest from the beginning, and I did acknowledge, saying, oh, I'm actually almost in my final year, but actually I don't feel that confident. I had 1 year off, and when you acknowledge your weaknesses and limitations, and you're honest with your mentor, they most of the time, in my case, 100% of the time, they really helped me out, and then I was fine. I was feeling, oh yes, I'm getting the confidence back, and I was feeling really motivated. So being, being proactive, reflecting on your practice on daily basis, but also being honest with your mentor and say, well, if you feel like I need more practice in this area, just say so.
Mm. Yeah. And in the chat box, Hilma from Namibia was saying that she doesn't have there are no mentors in their settings. I wonder if Hilma would like to say more about that or tell us. I wonder what it's like to learn without mentors.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Hilma, would you like to talk about it more? I can give you the microphone if you like. Oh, she's just typing now. I've given you the microphone, Hilma. If you want to talk, you can enable your mic. Otherwise, you're welcome to type as well if you prefer. And we've got just a couple of minutes left now as well. So if anyone has any other questions or comments they'd like to make, just let me know. Hilma, I've enabled your microphone already. You just need to enable the audio on it, turn the audio on. Should work.
Hilma, you should see a white microphone symbol next to your loudspeaker symbol. You need to click on that to turn it green.
Oh, that's a shame. You can type it out if you like, Hilma, what you were going to say earlier. If anybody else has any other questions, let me know. We'll just have a couple more minutes. It's been really, I know you apologize for having a short presentation, Paulina, but it's really nice to be able to have a discussion about it as well. The presentation was great. It's nice to hear
Thank you. Yeah, I think I felt it's a very important topic, especially right in the end of my journey.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear from the perspective of like Linda saying that she, having been a mentor before, and from other students and other teachers.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so
do
Hilma
hope
was
that will
saying,
inspire everybody, both student midwives and also mentors to try to, walk a mile in their shoes and really appreciate such a great system we have in the UK.
yeah, definitely. And Hilma was just saying that it hasn't been a good experience for the students in Namibia, and they have to find their own way within the department. You feel lost and discouraged. I can imagine. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a mentor to shadow every day. It'd be scary.
No,
You wouldn't necessarily feel sure about where your boundaries were between learning and doing, I guess.
yes, exactly.
Everyone's saying they love working with students. That's nice. It's good to know.
Yes.
And everyone's typing now. If there aren't any other questions, I think we'll finish here. Thanks so much, Paulina, for your talk. That was really, really interesting. And as you're saying, it's so important to bring this subject up, especially when you experience bullying and problems with your mentorship. You know, it's makes such a difference, and it really shapes what kind of midwife you turn into, I think. So it's a really important conversation to start.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we start thinking about this topic straight from the beginning, from as soon as we start our degree, it's in our minds, so then we can make sure we kind of creating that good, positive culture.
Yeah. And I like your last slide. It's very inspirational.
Oh yeah, I do love this slide as well.
So I'm going to stop recording shortly, and then I'll just talk through the last few things for the end of the presentation. But thanks again, Paulina, and
thank you.
Thanks for generating such a nice discussion. I think as well it might be a really nice discussion to continue in one of the student cafes. There's one a bit later on this evening. If you look on the program, there's I think it's
Perfect.
It's in a few hours' time, but especially student midwives, but there might be other people there as well. And be a great discussion to be having on there.
Thank you so much, Holly and Chris and Linda, for supporting me with this presentation.
Pleasure. I'm just going to turn off the recording now.